there's other Turkish directors who are doing very, very interesting things also. There's some very rich things in their culture, and they're telling those stories really fucking well. Like some of them are 2 or 3 hours, like 3 hours long, and I can stand the entire watch time. And there's not much happening. There's not a hell of a lot plot. I don't know if you found, James. I know you've only watched like a couple of Turkish films, like some of the ones I've recommended, but completely different in terms of the emphasis on like character work, day-to-day life versus like a plot.
Yeah.
Like this film was, it had a very, something happens and then something else needs to follow that thing up, and now there's a kind of vengeance story, and there's this person who wants to go and see.
It was only plot.
Yeah. Most of the other Turkish cinema that I've seen has none of that stuff. It's like to do with like the conflict between family relations and all this sort of shit. And it does it really well, like complete opposite end of the spectrum. It deals with really low-key, mundane stuff, but does it in a very rich, compelling way. This dealt with like really like not high-stakes stuff, but it's kind of generic kind of caper sort of movie plot stuff, and it dealt with it really shallowly. It felt really trite and like overly starchy. So it's quite sentimental at times. So I have the complete opposite impression watching a film like this to all the other Turkish films I've ever seen.
In terms of screenplay, I did get a feeling of a sort of its similarity in terms of the writing, in terms of just the style of it and how it was written. There is a similarity between that and films of like Good, Bad and the Ugly, and that's from the 60s. Like it's a totally dated way of writing a screenplay, isn't it? Which in the 90s just doesn't live up to the standard at all. Sorry, Tom, go on.
I was going to say, you were saying it might be a cultural difference between sort of different cinema cultures, but I think bad acting is bad acting no matter what country it's from. I think that was one of the most painful things about it. I just I'm baffled as to how it has these kind of reviews and this reputation, because it just felt, the whole thing felt really amateurish, and I thought the two main protagonists were really, really poor. Even the new guy in the city with the goatee, I don't even remember his name. His scene where he's dying on the rooftop is just, we could act better than it.
The rooftop scene was
hysterically crying to dead in a millisecond, and it's just his voice doesn't work. It's just so many scenes like that where you're like, come on.
I think you have to ask whether it's acting or direction when it's something like that. But
both. I think definitely both. But then the directing, for example, there's a scene when there's like all that rigmarole. The bit at the end when they're on the bed and the guy like storms into this room and they're both like on the bed, and he like comes up like threatening them, like putting the gun in their mouth, and then all these other mateys, like this big crew, is like standing in the doorway just watching like idiots. Like this guy is clearly like very likely to pull the trigger at any time, and then the bandit just comes in loads time later and is like, no, pats him on the shoulder, he's like, it's not worth it. And you're just sitting there like, come on, why have you only just seen fit to intervene? Like, where was the urgency? You've got all these mates just standing around looking like lemons, like looking shocked and shit. And I just was watching it like, none of this is real, I just can't buy it, I just can't. I was just kind of with them, mostly.
And the massacre scene where he goes into the garage, and then the boss guy is there also with a gun, but he's like so terrified,
it's like they're
shaking.
All the opponents are unarmed. They all have guns, but they just sort of see this old man and just accept being shot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess it's my time.
Yeah, literally.
On top of that as well, Liam, I think you already mentioned it as well about the exposition of it. But there was things which just didn't need to be said in the film. So the classic example that I was just like, oh no, they've really missed a trick here, is when there's the makings of quite a nice scene. I think when they're just up on the rooftop, one of maybe the first times they're up there, the bandit and Turkish Al Pacino fella, they're kind of up there and they're having this conversation, and and you're kind of seeing in your head like there's a bit of like a father-son relationship developing here, and then they just go out and say it straight out. He's like, oh, if I had a father, he'd probably be the same age as you right now. And he goes, yeah, if I had a son, he'd probably be the same age as you right now. So you don't need to say this stuff. It just
overly
kills
explicit.
it. Yeah, exactly.
Overly explicit. It's the same thing. Like the guy, there's a scene when one of the mateys is asking where another matey is, like where's Murkow or something like that, right? And then and he's standing there, and the hotel guy is behind the thing, and he tells him, right? And then it cuts into the next scene, and then it just shows us where he is anyway. And so it's really subtle things. Like all you needed to do was have him ask the question and then pop into the next scene, and now you show us where he is in relation to one character or another.
It's easy for us to shit on it. I want to hear more from Guy about
yeah, true. Yeah, I actually do want to hear.
See, part of the dialogue, I do disagree that when you say some of it wasn't needed, I don't see why it shouldn't be needed in there. Like, I understand. Like, I thought it flowed. I thought it flowed really well as a film. You may not have liked what actually, the way that it's carried out, but I thought as a script and I thought it worked really well. I'm not saying it's like the best film ever, but I'm not saying I feel the same way as you guys at all. The acting, you could see it's not A-class acting, although I actually don't think the guy that played Bandit was that bad at all. It was the guy that is his modern day partner in crime. That is the one that you sort of you have to just laugh at what he does and what his character does. But I think I accepted the quality of the acting quite early on and just sort of got on with it straight away. And the dialogue, when it's translated, sometimes it can lose its significance or maybe just seem more irrelevant. But a lot of it, I thought it was in its place and sort of was all right. And to watch it, I thought it was okay to watch. Like some really lovely sets in there. The cinematography tried. Like it wasn't A grade, but they tried, especially some of the really naturalistic stuff. I thought that was really good. I didn't part way through start clock watching at all. Not that I was totally riveted and engaged by it, but I wasn't sitting there wishing it would end. I just found it quite enjoyable. There were vibes of sort of West Side Story and stuff like that in there, especially given the age of that film as well. And I can see what you mean by the whole dated element that you're talking about and the way that it appears. But I quite liked the way that it was quite poetic towards the end, and I accepted it, to be honest. And I invested in the Bandit. I felt for him at the end. He never really got any luck at all, but then he got the Bandit's death that he wanted. And yeah, as a whole, what I didn't quite get the entire time was his wife called, or the woman called Kedje, or didn't quite understand why they couldn't be together the entire time anyway. That could have been lost in translation, but I didn't quite understand the whole, even handing over the check and it bouncing. To be fair, even that I wasn't expecting that to happen, to be honest. I thought once he'd saved the other guy, I thought that was sort of going to round off the ending and it'll be a fine happy ending. But then when they shot the other guy in the street, I was actually quite like, oh, okay, wasn't expecting that to happen. So it still surprised me slightly, but I don't understand why Bandit and his girl couldn't be together from pretty much 2/3 of the way through anyway.
He said, when he first meets her, he says, "Oh, I survived losing the lung. Whether he was shot a couple of times in prison type thing. He's like, I've been through all this pain, and I'm finally here. Hang on a minute, you stay here while I go save my mate."
Yeah. He's like, I'll come back for you. Is that what? Hang on, you've just got her. Like, you take her with you and then go save your mate. I don't quite get that.
At any point, all he had to do was just sort of wheel this guy into a wall and shoot him. You question why they're immediately like how is he able to just walk into the house in the first place when he gets arrested straight away? The last part, it just with lots and lots of. I think there was. I can see what you mean about there are nice undertones of morals, but I felt there was just too much. Too many things I was questioning and challenging, going, well, that wouldn't happen. Well, that's not right. That I couldn't, which I don't like doing, which I just couldn't enjoy the film from.
You say about having nice. moral. Oh shit, sorry. I was just going to ask Jem, like you saying about it having nice morals and stuff. What did you think that the film had to say for itself?
It was trying a lot for the. You could tell from the very start that it was trying to tell the story about this chap that it was. I mean, I think it said it in the first couple of sentences. He was an honourable bandit. Yeah, so this guy wasn't just sort of murderous. He was all about honour and. But then halfway throughout the film, it sort of strays towards like a buddy film with the two of them, and it's almost comedic. So I felt it just sort of it lost its way with the message it was trying to say. It's trying to sell about honor and how you shouldn't. It obviously throughout the film there was this anti-drugs message, but apparently you're completely allowed to murder people. I just didn't. I didn't really understand it. I couldn't really work out what it was going for.
It's like clash of intentions in that case. Yeah. What? All right. Well, out of all of you, then, Liam? What did you like about it, or was it really that bad?
No, I mean, when he died and there was a shot of a bird flying through the sky, I thought that's nice.
That's 1 star right there. Sorted. Is that it? Really? It was that savage for you?
No, it just fell flat. Every scene that was trying for something just contradicted itself in the next scene. I just thought it was all resting on shallows. Like even the peak moment of the film when it's like life and death and stuff, and the line is like, the check bounced. It just felt like this is all resting on shallow stuff. I just couldn't get with it. I could see too much of the stuff coming, and as I say, I never felt like I was in the film. I felt like I was just watching it the entire time. There was some nice shots, but then I don't know what it was shot on, but there was loads of interlacing. So like every time it panned, there was this distracting interlacing.
Yeah, just an issue with the recording or something. I doubt the original would have been wrong.
So you could see it was trying.
There might have been nice stuff, but I was just distracted too much, and I think I formulated my unease about it quite early on. So by the end I was just I was willing for it to end.
Tom?
I thought actually one thing that when the guy did act like he was this mysterious bandit and he was in that kind of character, I thought he was quite compelling. There were some close-ups of him just standing there in this kind of interesting light, and I thought, there's some interest. He just has to have a very still face, and I feel like he had quite a lot of character in his face. I can say that much.
Tom?